I'm Rachel, 34 years old, and I'm sitting in my empty house on Christmas morning, sipping champagne while my entire family frantically blows up my phone with increasingly desperate messages. Just 5 days ago, I discovered their elaborate scheme to trap me as unpaid childcare for 7 kids while they jetted off on a secret ski trip. They thought they had me cornered, but they forgot one crucial detail about me. I keep receipts, and I know how to use them. Before we dive into how I turned their Christmas conspiracy into their worst nightmare, I'd love to know where you're watching from today. Are you spending the holidays with family, or perhaps enjoying some peaceful solitude like me? Hit that like button if you've ever been the designated family babysitter, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories about standing up to family manipulation. Trust me, what they tried to pull will absolutely blow your mind, and how I handled it. Well, let's just say they'll never underestimate the quiet one again. For 15 years, I've been the reliable one in my family. You know the type. Always available, never complaining, perpetually single because who has time for dating when you're raising other people's children? My brother Jake works as an investment banker on Wall Street, pulling in 7 figures while his wife Stephanie jets around planning charity galas. My sister Monica runs a successful real estate agency, selling luxury homes to tech millionaires while her husband Trevor manages hedge funds. And me? I'm a high school history teacher who just got promoted to department head, though you'd never know it from how my family talks about my little job. The unpaid babysitting started innocently enough. Jake had his first child, little Mason, when I was 19 and still in college. Just this once, Rachel, my mother had said. Family helps family. That once turned into every weekend, every holiday, every time Jake and Stephanie needed a date night, or Monica and Trevor wanted to attend another networking event. 7 kids between them now. Jake has Mason, Lily, and the twins Emma and Ethan, while Monica contributed Sophia, Aiden, and baby Charlotte. I've missed 3 promotion opportunities because I couldn't attend conferences. They always happen to fall during family emergencies that required me to babysit. I've had 2 relationships end because I kept canceling dates to watch the kids. My ex-boyfriend David finally had enough when I missed his birthday dinner because Monica suddenly remembered a crucial client meeting. "They're using you," he'd said. I defended them then. Family comes first, right? My parents, Harold and Janet, always reinforced this dynamic. Dad would pat my shoulder and tell me how proud he was of his selfless daughter, while Mom would guilt me with stories about how families stuck together during the Depression. They'd fawn over Jake's latest bonus or Monica's record-breaking sale, while dismissing my teaching awards as participation trophies. When I mentioned wanting to pursue my master's degree, Mom actually laughed. Why would you need that? It's not like teaching pays more with fancy degrees. The Christmas tradition at our family's Connecticut mansion was legendary, at least according to my parents' Facebook posts. 3 days of festivities, catered meals, professional decorators, and enough presents to stock a small store. In every photo, you'd see the adults in their cocktail attire, champagne flutes raised, designer shoes sparkling. You know where you wouldn't see me? In those photos. I'd be in the basement playroom, making sure 7 kids didn't destroy each other or the house while the adults celebrated above. Every year, they promised things would be different. "We'll hire professional help next Christmas," Monica would assure me while touching up her lipstick. You deserve to enjoy the party too. But somehow, mysteriously, those professionals always fell through at the last minute. Food poisoning, family emergencies, sudden moves out of state. The excuses varied, but the result remained constant. Aunt Rachel in the basement with a Disney movie marathon and 7 sugar-high children. This year started with such promise. My promotion to department head came with a significant salary increase and, more importantly, required attendance at a national education conference. The conference ran December 23rd through 26th, right through Christmas. When I announced this in October, my family's reactions were telling. Jake laughed like I'd told a particularly good joke. Monica rolled her eyes and muttered something about teachers and their meetings. But it was my mother's response that should have warned me. She smiled, patted my hand, and said, "We'll work something out, dear. We always do." By November, the guilt trip started. Subtle at first, like my mother sighing heavily whenever Christmas came up in conversation. "I just can't imagine Christmas without the whole family together," she'd say, staring wistfully at old photos. "Your grandmother always said the family that celebrates together stays together." Never mind that Grandma Ruth had been the first to call out their favoritism before she passed. Early December brought the first red flag. Monica called, breathlessly excited about finding the perfect babysitting service for Christmas. "They have a whole team," she gushed. "The kids will be so entertained, you'll actually be bored." She'd already put down a deposit, she claimed, showing me a professional-looking website. Something felt off, but I pushed the feeling aside. Maybe this year really would be different. The second red flag came when Jake cornered me at Mom's birthday dinner. "Hey, Ratch," he said, using the nickname he only deployed when he wanted something. "About this conference thing. Is it really mandatory? I mean, surely they understand about family obligations." When I explained that yes, it was mandatory, and that I was actually presenting a paper on innovative teaching methods, he snorted. "Can't you just email it to them?" By mid-December, I noticed a pattern. Every few days, someone would mention how excited the kids were to see Aunt Rachel at Christmas. How they'd been making special crafts for me. How baby Charlotte had apparently said my name as her first word, which was remarkable considering she was only 10 months old and I'd seen her exactly twice since her birth. The manipulation was so transparent it would have been funny if it weren't so insulting. But I kept quiet, smiled, and assured them I was working on a solution with the conference organizers. Meanwhile, I did something I'd never done before. I prepared. I downloaded a call recording app, perfectly legal in our one-party consent state. I started screenshotting text messages. I paid attention to details I'd previously ignored in my eagerness to keep the peace. And what I discovered was about to change everything. December 20th started like any other day. I was grading final exams when my phone buzzed with a message from Jake. But this wasn't a private message. Somehow, he'd accidentally added me to a group chat I was definitely not supposed to see. The thread was titled Operation Christmas Freedom, and the participants included Jake, Monica, both their spouses, my parents, and surprisingly, my cousins Amy and Beth. The first message I saw made my blood run cold. It was from Monica. "Babysitter number 3 just confirmed she's suddenly moving to Florida. Mom, you're a genius with that sob story about your sick sister." My mother's response came quickly. 30 years of practice, darling. Rachel's always been too trusting for her own good. I sat frozen, staring at my phone as the messages continued flowing. Jake chimed in. "Did everyone book their flights for Aspen? The resort needs final numbers for our Christmas Eve arrival." Aspen? While I was supposed to be watching their kids, they were planning a ski trip. My father's message confirmed it. 5 couples confirmed. "The presidential suite is perfect for our Christmas morning celebration." My hands shook as I scrolled up through weeks of messages. The conspiracy went deeper than I'd imagined. They'd been planning this since September. Every babysitter I'd been told about, they'd personally called to cancel them, with my mother spinning elaborate tales about family drama, house infestations, even a fake lawsuit to scare off the most persistent ones. One agency had blacklisted our family entirely after Mom claimed their sitter had stolen jewelry. Jake had written, "Remember, everyone needs to mention the kids being excited to see Rachel." Psychological manipulation 101. Create emotional obligation. Monica had responded with laughing emojis. "Did you see her face when I said Charlotte's first word was her name?" She actually believed it. But it got worse. Amy, my cousin who I'd always considered an ally, had been assigned to create fake social media posts about looking forward to family time, to guilt me if I wavered. Beth was tasked with bringing her newborn to family dinners as a reminder of what family means. They'd even created a betting pool on how quickly I'd cave. Monica had put $50 on before December 15th. My own father had bet against me lasting until December 20th. The most devastating message was from my mother, dated December 1st. "Harold's right. She'll never actually skip Christmas. She doesn't have the spine. We've trained her too well." Remember when she gave up that scholarship to watch Jake's kids during his bar exam? This conference nonsense will go the same way. I set down my phone and walked to my filing cabinet, my movements mechanical as my mind raced. I'd kept every text, every email, every scrap of paper related to family obligations over the years. I'd never looked at them collectively before, afraid of what I'd find. Now, with shaking hands, I began my investigation. First, I called Creative Childcare Solutions, the agency Monica claimed to have hired. "Oh, Ms. Matthews," the receptionist said, her voice turning cold. "We were told by a Mrs. Janet Morrison that your family was pursuing legal action against our company for theft. We cannot provide services to your family." 3 other agencies told similar stories. One had been informed I was under investigation for child endangerment. Another was told the house had a severe mold problem that made it unsafe for workers. Next, I discovered the financial betrayal. For years, I'd contributed to what I thought was an emergency family fund, $500 monthly that Mom said was in case something happens to Dad's investments. I did some digging through old bank statements and cross-referenced them with social media posts. Those contributions had funded their vacations. The trip to Cabo Jake posted about? Funded during a month I'd contributed extra for Dad's medical tests. Monica's spa weekend in Sedona? Paid for the same month I couldn't afford to fix my car because of my family contribution. The Aspen reservations were the final straw. I found them through some creative searching on travel sites, booked under my father's company card. 5 luxury suites at the St. Regis Aspen, December 23rd through 28th. The total? Over $40,000. Meanwhile, they told me they couldn't afford a chip in for professional babysitters because times are tight. I pulled up our family group chat, the one I was actually included in, and scrolled through months of lies. Every concern message about my stress levels, every offer to help find babysitters, every mention of the kids missing me, it was all calculated manipulation. They'd even coordinated their message timing, making sure someone guilt-tripped me every 48 hours to keep the pressure steady, but not suspicious. The breaking point came when I discovered an email thread between Monica and the PTA president at her kid's school. Monica had volunteered me to run the school's winter fundraiser, telling them I'd insisted on taking charge because I didn't have much else going on. The event? Scheduled for January 2nd, right when I'd planned to recover from the conference and prepare for the new semester. I found myself laughing, a harsh sound in my empty apartment. They'd planned everything so meticulously, covering every angle to ensure I'd be trapped. But they'd made one crucial error. They'd forgotten that the quiet, reliable daughter they'd trained to never make waves was also the one who'd earned a master's degree in her little teaching job. The one who'd learned to research, document, and present evidence. The one who'd spent 15 years observing their tactics and understanding their weaknesses. I opened a new document on my laptop and began typing. If they wanted to play games, I'd show them how a history teacher handles revisionist narratives. By the time I finished documenting everything, I had 30 pages of evidence complete with screenshots, call recordings, and financial records. But I wasn't done yet. This was just reconnaissance. The real battle plan was still forming in my mind, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't going to back down. As I saved the file, titling it Family Truth, another message popped up in the group chat I wasn't supposed to see. Mom had written, "Remember, everyone act normal around Rachel. We're so close to pulling this off. This time next week, we'll be toasting in Aspen while she handles the chaos at home. It's what she's good at, after all." I smiled, a real smile for the first time in days. They thought they knew me. They thought they had me figured out, categorized, contained. They were about to learn that the most dangerous opponent is the one you've underestimated, the one you've pushed too far, the one who has nothing left to lose and everything to gain. Hashtag part 4. The plan. After discovering their scheme, I knew I needed more than just evidence. I needed strategy, allies, and most importantly, an exit plan they'd never see coming. My first call was to Diane, my friend from college who'd become a family law attorney. "Rachel, what you're describing isn't just manipulation," she said after reviewing my documentation. The financial aspect could constitute fraud. Using your emergency fund contributions for vacations while claiming financial hardship? That's textbook deception. Diane helped me understand my legal standing, but more importantly, she helped me see the pattern I'd been blind to for years. They've created a system where you're punished for success and rewarded for compliance, she explained. Classic narcissistic family dynamics. The question is, are you ready to break the cycle? I spent the next 2 days building my response plan. First, I confirmed my conference registration and booked a non-refundable suite at the hotel. The irony wasn't lost on me that my accommodation would cost a fraction of their Aspen extravaganza, yet it represented something far more valuable: my freedom. I even paid extra for the presenter's package, which included professional photographs and video recordings of my presentation. Evidence that I was exactly where I said I'd be. Next came the delicate work of maintaining my cover. I responded to family messages with my usual agreeability, even adding enthusiasm. When Monica texted about the kids' excitement, I replied, "Can't wait to see what crafts they've made." When Jake mentioned needing to discuss logistics, I cheerfully agreed to a call where I let him mansplain childcare to me for 20 minutes without pointing out I'd been doing it longer than he'd been a parent. The hardest part was creating my contingency materials. I spent an entire evening crafting the perfect babysitting schedule, complete with meal plans, nap times, emergency contacts, and activity suggestions. 20 pages of detailed instructions that would never be used but needed to seem genuine. I even created individual gift lists for each child, knowing I'd never purchase them but needing to maintain the illusion. Meanwhile, I started reaching out to family members who'd been sidelined over the years. My first call was to Aunt Carol, my father's sister who'd been mysteriously excluded from family gatherings after she'd refused to lend money for Jake's wedding. "Oh, honey," she said when I explained the situation, "I've been waiting 20 years for someone else to see through their act. Did you know they told everyone I had a drinking problem after I said no? I haven't touched alcohol in my life." Through Carol, I connected with other family outcasts. Cousin Patricia, who'd been labeled difficult after questioning why she wasn't invited to Monica's destination wedding despite paying for the bridal shower. Uncle Frank, my mother's brother, who'd been gradually frozen out after suggesting the inheritance should be split equally rather than based on who mother loves most. Each had stories of manipulation, lies, and punishment for not playing their assigned roles. Together, we formed an unlikely alliance. Patricia, now a successful marketing executive, offered to help craft my announcement for maximum impact. Frank, who'd become wealthy in tech despite the family writing him off as a computer nerd, provided technical assistance in backing up all my evidence to multiple secure clouds. Carol simply offered moral support and 30 years of observations about the family's patterns. The most surprising ally came from within the inner circle. My grandmother's caregiver, Elisa, reached out after overhearing my parents discussing the Aspen trip. "Miss Rachel, I thought you should know your grandmother has been asking for you. Your parents told her you were too busy to visit, but I know that's not true." She agreed to secretly video call me with Grandma on Christmas Day, ensuring I could maintain that connection despite everything. I crafted multiple versions of my revelation message, each more detailed than the last. Patricia helped me strike the right tone, firm but not hysterical, factual but not cold. We decided on a staggered release strategy. Immediate family first, then extended family, then selected friends who'd wondered why I always missed social events. The message would include evidence of their deception, announcement of my conference attendance, and clear boundaries moving forward. For the children's gifts, I made a decision that felt both kind and pointed. Instead of empty boxes, I purchased savings bonds in each child's name, $500 each that their parents couldn't touch, designated for education expenses only. The accompanying cards would explain that Aunt Rachel wanted to invest in their future since their parents had invested so much in deceiving her. I also prepared for the practical aftermath. I changed my locks, knowing someone would likely try to confront me in person. I informed my apartment complex's security about potential family drama and asked them to log any attempts at entry. I even meal prepped for 2 weeks, anticipating that I'd be dealing with emotional fallout and wouldn't want to leave my apartment unnecessarily. The final piece of my plan involved the conference itself. I reached out to my fellow presenters and explained I might be dealing with family harassment during the event. The education community rallied around me immediately.
Dr.
Foster, who'd be presenting after me, offered to screen my calls. The conference organizers provided security contact information and assured me they'd handle any disruptions professionally. As December 23rd approached, I maintained my facade perfectly. I sent cheerful messages about finalizing things and making sure everything's perfect for the kids. I even posted on social media about organizing for the holidays. The night before everything would change, I sat in my apartment surrounded by evidence folders, drafted messages, and lists of allies. 15 years of compliance had led to this moment. They thought they'd trapped me in a web of obligation and guilt, but they'd actually given me the gift of clarity. Every manipulation, every lie, every bet against my backbone had forged something they never expected, a woman who knew her worth and was ready to claim it. I pulled up the secret group chat one last time, watching their excited messages about flight times and ski equipment rentals. Monica had written, "By the time Rachel realizes she's alone with the kids, we'll be in the air. She'll cope, she always does." Jake had responded, "The beauty is, even if she's mad, what's she going to do? Skip Christmas? She'd never hurt the kids like that." They were right about one thing. I'd never hurt the kids. But they'd forgotten that sometimes the best thing you can do for children is show them that manipulation has consequences, that boundaries matter, and that even Aunt Rachel has limits. Tomorrow, they'd learn exactly where those limits were. December 23rd dawned crisp and bright, the kind of winter morning that usually filled me with Christmas anticipation. Instead, I felt the calm that comes with accepting a difficult decision. My bags were packed for the conference, my apartment was secured, and my phone was fully charged for what I knew would be an onslaught of messages. But first, they had one more performance to give, and I had a role to maintain for just a few more hours. The day began with a text from Monica at 6:47 a.m. "Hey sis, just wanted to confirm you're all set for tonight. The babysitter should arrive at 7 p.m. sharp. Her name is Jennifer, super experienced." The kids are bouncing off the walls with excitement. I responded with enthusiasm, even adding a smiley face emoji I'd never normally use. "Can't wait. Tell them Aunt Rachel has special surprises planned." By noon, the family group chat was bustling with manufactured normalcy. Photos of the kids in their Christmas outfits, reminders about food allergies I'd been managing for years, and repeated assurances about this phantom babysitter Jennifer. Jake even sent a screenshot of a fake conversation with Jennifer confirming her arrival time. The attention to detail would have been impressive if it weren't so insulting. Then came the emotional manipulation masterclass. My phone rang at 2 p.m., Mom's contact photo filling the screen. "Rachel, darling," she began, her voice dripping with false concern, "I just wanted to check on you. You seem stressed lately. Are you sure you're up for hosting Christmas? You know how important family traditions are, especially now that Grandma's getting so frail." I gripped my phone tighter. I thought the babysitter was handling most of it. A pause. Then, smoothly, "Oh, of course. I just meant the coordination. You know how you are, always taking on too much. Actually, that reminds me, your grandmother specifically asked if you'd be there. She said something about this might be her last Christmas. You know how dramatic she gets at 93. The lie burned. I'd spoken to Grandma through Elisa just yesterday. She was healthier than she'd been in years and had made no such statement. "I'll make sure to spend quality time with her," I said, keeping my voice neutral. "Wonderful. Oh, and Rachel? The kids made you something special. Monica says they've been working on it for weeks. It would break their little hearts if you weren't there to see it." Click. Message delivered. Guilt deployed. An hour later, Jake called with his contribution. "Hey Rach, quick question. You're good with the overnight stuff, right? I mean, if the babysitter needs to leave early or something. Stephanie's worried because Ethan's been having nightmares. He only calms down for you. Another lie. Ethan slept like a rock and had since infancy. I know. I'd been the one teaching them sleep training while Jake played video games. Of course, I assured him. Whatever the kids need. You're the best, sis. Seriously, I don't know what we'd do without you. Oh, and hey, about that conference thing? I hope you're not still stressing about that. Family comes first, right? That's what Dad always says. The pattern continued all afternoon. Calculated messages designed to reinforce my obligation, create false emergencies, and establish emotional stakes. Stephanie texted about Lily's special medication that only Aunt Rachel knows how to administer properly. Trevor sent a long message about Aiden's recent behavioral issues that respond best to your firm but loving approach. Even my cousins Amy and Beth chimed in with how their kids were looking forward to cousin bonding time with the others under my supervision. At 4 p.m., things escalated. Monica called, panic in her voice. Rachel, emergency. Mason just threw up. He says his stomach hurts. But here's the weird thing. He keeps asking for you. He says Aunt Rachel knows how to make the tummy medicine taste good. I'm freaking out here. I nearly laughed at the transparency. Mason was 11, fully capable of taking medicine without flavoring tricks. Did you check his temperature? I asked, playing along. Oh, no, I didn't think of that. Hold on. Muffled voices in the background, obviously discussing their next move. You know what? He seems better now. Must have been nerves about Christmas. But maybe you should come early, just in case? I'll stick to the planned schedule, I said firmly. Jennifer, the babysitter, can handle a stomachache if it returns. The silence on the other end was telling. They hadn't expected pushback, even that mild. Right, of course. Jennifer. She's very qualified. By 5 p.m., the desperation was showing. Dad called with technical difficulties about the house alarm system that only Rachel knows how to fix. Mom texted about a missing dessert recipe that was crucial for maintaining tradition. Jake's wife Stephanie suddenly remembered I was the only one who knew the Netflix password for the kids' profiles. Then came the masterstroke of manipulation. A FaceTime call from all 7 kids, clearly coached and prompted. Aunt Rachel, they chorused. We miss you. When are you coming? We made you presents. Mom says you might not come. You're coming, right? You promised. My heart cracked a little. The kids were innocent pawns in this game. I'll see you soon, loves, I said, hating the deception but knowing it was necessary. Be good for Jennifer tonight, okay? Who's Jennifer? Little Sophia asked, genuinely confused. Monica's face flashed panic in the background before she quickly ended the call. The final blow came at 6 p.m. A group text from Mom to the entire extended family, including relatives who hadn't been invited to Christmas. Looking forward to another wonderful Morrison family Christmas. Rachel's organizing the children's activities, as always. She's such a blessing, taking care of everyone else before herself. We raised her right. See everyone tomorrow. The public declaration was meant to lock me in through social pressure. How could I disappoint great Aunt Marie from Phoenix or second cousin Bobby from Seattle? How could I ruin the image of perfect family harmony my parents had cultivated on social media for decades? At 6:30, I performed my final act. I sent a message to the family group chat. Heading over now. Can't wait to see everyone. Jennifer should be there soon. I've prepared detailed schedules for all the kids, sending them now. I attached my meticulously crafted 20-page babysitting guide, complete with color-coded schedules and lovingly detailed activity plans. The responses were immediate and relieved. Heart emojis, praise for my organization, and promises that Jennifer would follow everything perfectly. Monica even wrote, "You think of everything. This is why we couldn't do Christmas without you." At 6:45, I stood in my apartment, conference bag in hand, looking at my phone light up with increasingly frantic messages. Where are you? Traffic. Jennifer just called to cancel. The kids are asking for you. This is a disaster. Please answer. Rachel, this isn't funny. I switched my phone to airplane mode, cutting off the digital panic. In 15 minutes, they'd realize I wasn't coming. In 30, they'd understand Jennifer never existed. In an hour, they'd discover their ski trip was in jeopardy. But right now, I had a conference registration to check into and a presentation about innovative teaching methods to review. As I drove toward the airport hotel, I thought about their final attempt at deception. The fake sick child, the manufactured grandmother statement, the choreographed children's play. They'd pulled out every manipulation in their playbook, refined over 15 years of controlling me. They'd been so confident in their tactics, so sure of my compliance, they'd already started celebrating in the secret group chat. But they'd made a crucial error. They'd pushed too hard, schemed too obviously, and finally showed me exactly who they were beneath the family facade. They'd revealed that I wasn't a beloved daughter and sister, but an unpaid servant whose feelings meant nothing compared to their convenience. They'd shown me that my dreams, career, and well-being were acceptable casualties in their pursuit of luxury and leisure. Tomorrow morning, they'd wake up to more than just the absence of their reliable babysitter. They'd wake up to the consequences of their choices, delivered with the same careful planning they'd used against me. But tonight, I had a welcome reception to attend, surrounded by colleagues who valued my contributions and respected my boundaries. As I pulled into the hotel parking lot, my phone stayed dark in my purse. Whatever messages were accumulating would wait until tomorrow. Tonight, for the first time in 15 years, I was exactly where I wanted to be, free. My phone remained in airplane mode until 6 a.m. on Christmas morning. I'd slept better than I had in months, knowing that across town, my family was likely experiencing their first sleepless night of parenting reality. When I finally switched on my phone, it immediately crashed from the volume of incoming messages. After restarting, I saw the numbers: 247 missed calls, 189 text messages, and 73 WhatsApp notifications. The family had been busy, but they weren't the only ones. While they'd been frantically trying to reach me, my scheduled email had deployed at exactly 6 a.m., sent to every family member in my contacts, including extended relatives, family friends, and even some of their business associates who'd been included in group emails over the years. The subject line read, "The truth about the Morrison family Christmas tradition." The email began, "Dear family and friends, by the time you read this, I'll be presenting at the National Education Innovation Conference, an opportunity I've worked toward for 5 years. You're probably wondering why I'm not at the family Christmas celebration. The answer requires me to share some difficult truths about what's been happening behind the scenes of our perfect family gatherings." I'd attach screenshots of the Operation Christmas Freedom group chat, highlighting the most damning messages. Monica's confession about sabotaging babysitters. Jake's psychological manipulation tactics. Mom's statement about training me too well. Dad's bet against my backbone. The Aspen reservations totaling $40,000 while claiming they couldn't afford childcare. Every piece of evidence was time-stamped and verified. The email continued, "For 15 years, I've been the unpaid nanny for 7 children while their parents partied, vacationed, and built their careers. I've missed promotions, ended relationships, and sacrificed my own dreams to maintain their lifestyle. This year, they orchestrated an elaborate scheme to trap me again, canceling legitimate babysitters and planning a secret ski trip to Aspen." Within minutes of sending, my phone exploded with responses. I opened the family group chat first, watching the panic unfold in real time. Mom, 6:03 a.m., Rachel Elizabeth Morrison. What have you done? Jake, 6:04 a.m., this is defamation. I'm calling my lawyer. Monica, 6:05 a.m., how could you do this to the children on Christmas? Dad, 6:07 a.m., young lady, you return home immediately. I took a sip of hotel coffee and continued scrolling. The extended family responses were more interesting. Aunt Marie, I knew something was off. No wonder you never looked happy in those Christmas photos. Cousin Bobby, good for you, Rachel. They tried this with my mom decades ago. Uncle Frank, welcome to the Family Rebel Club. Proud of you. But the most satisfying message came from Great Aunt Lucille, the family matriarch in Florida. Harold and Janet, I'm disgusted. Redistributing the Christmas fund I usually send your way to Rachel's educational endeavors instead. Back in the immediate family chat, the blame game had begun. Monica to Jake. This is your fault. You said she'd never find out. Jake to Mom. You were supposed to delete her from that group chat. Stephanie to everyone. Who's watching the children right now? Dad. Everyone stop. We need damage control. Think about our reputation. I chose that moment to break my silence, sending a single message to the group. To answer Stephanie's question about childcare, I've left detailed instructions in the document I sent yesterday. Everything you need is there. As for reputation, that's something you should have considered before creating Operation Christmas Freedom. Merry Christmas. The responses were immediate. Mom. Please, Rachel. Let's talk about this like adults. Monica. The ski trip is non-refundable. Do you know how much money we'll lose? Jake. This is emotional terrorism. You're traumatizing the children. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened individual messages from the kids, sent from their tablets. Mason. Aunt Rachel, where are you? Grandma is crying and yelling. Lily. We waited for you all night. Mom says you abandoned us. Sophia. Daddy threw his phone at the wall. Are you mad at us? These broke my heart, but I'd prepared for this too. I sent each child a voice message. Hey, sweethearts, Aunt Rachel loves you very much. I'm at an important work event, just like when your parents go to their offices. Sometimes adults make choices that are hard to understand. But I have special gifts waiting for you, and we'll talk soon. Be good for each other today, okay? Meanwhile, the family's attempts at damage control were failing spectacularly. Monica's real estate agency Facebook page was receiving comments from mutual acquaintances who'd received my email. Jake's LinkedIn was blowing up with connections asking if the email was real. Dad's golf buddies were texting him screenshots with laughing emojis. By 8 a.m., they'd shifted tactics. The phone calls started again, each family member trying a different approach. Mom, voicemail, sweetheart. There's been a terrible misunderstanding. That group chat was a joke that got out of hand. Please call me back so we can fix this. Jake, voicemail, Rachel. You've made your point. Come home and we'll discuss this rationally. I'll even pay you for babysitting if that's what this is about. Monica, voicemail. I can't believe you'd ruin Christmas over a miscommunication. The babysitter really did cancel. We were just venting in that chat. The lies were almost insulting in their desperation. But the best voicemail came from Dad. Rachel, you've embarrassed this family in front of everyone we know. When you're done with your tantrum and ready to apologize, we might consider forgiving you. But don't wait too long. Apologize? The audacity was breathtaking. I screenshot his message and added it to my growing collection, labeling it Gaslighting Attempt 1. By noon, the situation at the house had devolved into chaos, based on reports from Aunt Carol, who'd driven by to watch the fireworks. No one had prepared Christmas dinner, expecting me to handle it as always. The kids were hungry, cranky, and confused. The presents remained unwrapped because I usually organized that too. The catered brunch they'd ordered for the adults sat untouched because someone needed to watch the children. The ski trip was officially dead. Monica's husband Trevor had tried to salvage it by suggesting they take turns watching the kids, but that started a fight about whose children were more difficult. Jake accused Monica of having feral offspring. Monica shot back that Jake's twins were entitled brats. Stephanie cried. Trevor stormed out. The kids, unsupervised, found the dessert stash and gave themselves sugar rushes that made everything worse. At 2 p.m., I received a FaceTime request from Elisa, Grandma's caregiver. When I answered, my grandmother's face filled the screen, her eyes sharp and knowing. Rachel, my dear, Grandma said, Elisa showed me your email. Good for you. I've been waiting 60 years for someone to stand up to my son's insufferable need for control.
Thanks, Grandma.
I'm sorry I'm missing Christmas with you. She waved dismissively. You're not missing anything. I told Harold I was too sick to attend when I heard about their scheme last week. I'm eating Chinese food and watching my stories. Best Christmas I've had in years. We talked for 30 minutes about my presentation, her soap operas, and plans to have lunch when I returned. Not once did she guilt me or suggest I should have stayed. Before hanging up, she said, "You know, your Aunt Margaret did the same thing in 1987. Took them 15 years to speak to her again. She said it was the most peaceful 15 years of her life." As evening approached, the family's messages shifted tone again. The anger had burned out, replaced by something more calculating. "Monica, okay, you win. Come home, and we'll negotiate fair babysitting rates going forward."
Jake.
"I've transferred $500 to your account as a show of good faith. Let's move past this." "Mom, the children are suffering. Whatever point you're trying to make isn't worth traumatizing them." But it was too late for negotiations. The extended family had rallied around me in unexpected ways. Cousin Patricia had started a group chat for Morrison Family Rebels that already had 12 members. Uncle Frank had shared his own story of escaping the family's exploitation. Aunt Carol was organizing an alternative Christmas for next year, specifically excluding my immediate family. The final blow to my family's ego came from an unexpected source. The conference organizers, having heard about my situation from colleagues, had arranged for my presentation to be live-streamed on their public channel. They announced it on Twitter with the hashtag #TeacherBoundaries, and it went modestly viral in education circles. Comments poured in from other teachers sharing similar stories of family exploitation. As I prepared for the conference's evening gala, I sent one final message to the family group chat. "I see you're ready to negotiate now that you're experiencing the consequences of your choices. Here are my terms: a written apology to be sent to everyone who received my email. Full reimbursement for 15 years of unpaid childcare at the going rate of $20 per hour. Equal treatment in all family decisions going forward. Respect for my career and boundaries. No retaliation against family members who supported me. You have until New Year's Day to respond. Until then, please respect my need for space to focus on my professional obligations." I then muted all notifications and got ready for the gala. As I pinned on my conference badge, I thought about what they were doing right now. Probably still arguing, still blaming each other, still refusing to acknowledge their part in creating this situation. The kids were likely overtired, overstimulated, and wondering why Christmas felt so different. And for the first time in 15 years, those weren't my problems to solve. My presentation was scheduled for tomorrow morning. The title? Breaking Cycles: How Educators Can Model Healthy Boundaries for Students. The irony wasn't lost on me that I'd learned this lesson not in a classroom, but in the dysfunction of my own family. But sometimes the best teachers are the experiences we never wanted to have. As I entered the gala, several colleagues approached to offer support. Word had spread about my situation, and the education community had embraced me with the warmth my own family had reserved for their schemes. Dr. Foster raised her glass in a toast to boundaries, consequences, and the courage to teach the hardest lessons. I raised my own glass, thinking of the chaos across town. They'd wanted a Christmas without Rachel. They'd gotten exactly what they'd asked for. Sometimes the best gift you can give someone is letting them experience the natural consequences of their choices. And sometimes the best gift you can give yourself is the freedom to choose yourself first. The week between Christmas and New Year's revealed the full scope of destruction from my boundary setting. Like dominoes falling, each revelation triggered another, exposing years of hidden dysfunction in the Morrison family. The first major crack appeared on December 27th when Monica's husband Trevor filed for separation. Apparently, the Christmas disaster had been the final straw in a marriage already strained by Monica's entitlement and manipulation. The news came via Aunt Carol, who'd become my primary source of family intelligence. "Trevor's staying at his brother's," she reported during our daily check-in call. He told Monica that watching her lie and scheme against you made him realize she'd probably been doing the same to him. Turns out, she's been hiding money in a private account while claiming they couldn't afford marriage counseling. Jake's professional life took a hit next. Several of his colleagues had received my forwarded email through mutual connections. Investment banking, it turns out, is a small world, and trust is everything. His boss called him in for a meeting about judgment concerns after seeing how he'd orchestrated financial deception against a family member. The bonus he'd been counting on was now under review. But the most dramatic fallout came from an unexpected source: the children. Without me as their constant caregiver and mediator, they'd been forced to confront their parents' limitations directly. 11-year-old Mason had taken to keeping a journal, documenting the chaos. Sophia innocently shared some choice entries during a video call Elisa arranged. December 26th, Mom cried for 3 hours because people at the grocery store were whispering about her. Dad said it's Aunt Rachel's fault, but I think it's because Mom lied. Aunt Rachel always says lying has consequences. December 27th, Dad and Uncle Jake got in a fight about whose fault everything is. Dad threw the Xbox controller. Now it's broken and he blames Aunt Rachel even though she wasn't here. That doesn't make sense. December 28th, we had cereal for dinner again. Mom doesn't know how to cook the fancy stuff Aunt Rachel makes. I miss real food. The extended family drama was equally intense. The Morrison family rebels chat had grown to 23 members, including several relatives I'd never met who'd experienced similar treatment decades ago. Stories poured out about financial manipulation, forced labor disguised as family duty, and systematic exclusion of anyone who refused to comply. Uncle Frank shared how he'd been written out of the will after refusing to invest in Jake's first business venture. Cousin Patricia revealed that Monica had spread rumors about her having addiction problems when she declined to plan Monica's wedding for free. Great Aunt Lucille disclosed that my parents had been embezzling from the family trust for years, using funds meant for grandchildren's education to fund their lifestyle. On December 29th, my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. Against my better judgment, I answered. It was Stephanie, Jake's wife, calling from her sister's phone. Rachel? Please don't hang up. I'm not calling to guilt you. I'm calling to apologize. I stayed silent, curious despite myself. I knew about the scheme, she continued, her voice rough from crying. I knew and I went along with it because I wanted the ski trip. I wanted the break. But watching Jake these past few days, seeing how he talks about you, about everyone really, it's like scales fell from my eyes. Did you know he calls me the breeding mare to his friends? Says, I'm only good for producing heirs. I'm sorry, Stephanie. I said, meaning it. She'd been a victim too in her way. The thing is, you were the only one who ever actually helped with the kids. Really helped, not just for show. Jake hasn't changed a diaper since the twins were born. Claims it's beneath his pay grade. I'm leaving him, Rachel. The kids and I are going to my mother's in California. This was bigger than I'd anticipated. My boundary setting had triggered an avalanche of truth-telling that was reshaping the entire family structure. New Year's Eve arrived with my family's official response to my terms. It came in the form of an email from Dad, clearly written by their lawyer. Dear Rachel, after careful consideration, the family has decided to offer the following resolution. 1. We acknowledge there may have been some miscommunication regarding holiday plans.
2.
We are willing to provide a modest compensation of $5,000 for any inconvenience caused. 3. Moving forward, we will ensure clearer communication about childcare expectations. 4. We trust this resolves the matter and look forward to resuming normal family relations. This offer expires at midnight on January 1st. I laughed out loud. Miscommunication? Modest compensation for 15 years of servitude? Their inability to truly acknowledge wrongdoing even now was almost impressive. I forwarded their response to the extended family chat with my own addition. For context, at $20 per hour for an average of 30 hours per week over 15 years, the fair compensation would be approximately $468,000. Their offer of $5,000 represents roughly 1% of what they owe. This doesn't include the missed career opportunities, therapy costs, or personal relationships destroyed by their manipulation. I share this not from greed, but to illustrate how they still don't comprehend the magnitude of their exploitation. The extended family's response was swift and unanimous, reject the offer. Several relatives shared their own calculations of unpaid labor over the years. The collective theft was staggering. Meanwhile, my conference presentation had been posted online and gained unexpected traction. Emails poured in from educators worldwide sharing similar stories. A podcast focused on workplace boundaries reached out for an interview. A publisher's agent inquired about a possible book deal exploring family exploitation dynamics. On New Year's Day, as their deadline passed without my acceptance, the family tried one final manipulation. They announced on Facebook that they were heartbroken by Rachel's choice to estrange herself from the family and asked for prayers during this difficult time. The comment section quickly became a battlefield as extended family members corrected the narrative with screenshots and facts. The professional consequences continued mounting. Monica lost 3 major real estate clients who'd seen the email and questioned her ethics. Jake's firm placed him on performance review. Dad's golf club membership was awkwardly renewed with several members pointedly avoiding him. Mom's charity committee suggested she take a break from her leadership role. But perhaps the most telling moment came from an unexpected source. On January 2nd, I received a handwritten letter from Mason, smuggled out through Elisa. Dear Aunt Rachel, Mom says I'm not supposed to write to you, but I think that's stupid. You always taught us to stand up for what's right. That's what you did. Mom and Dad are mad because now they have to actually take care of us. Dad tried to help me with homework yesterday and didn't know what a metaphor was. You would have known. I'm saving my allowance to buy my own Christmas presents next year, since you won't be there to remember what we actually want. Mom bought me a football, even though, you know, I hate sports. She never pays attention like you do. I hope you're happy at your teacher thing. Maybe when I'm older and don't have to listen to them anymore, we can be friends again. Love, Mason. P.S. Lily says to tell you she finally lost her front tooth. The tooth fairy forgot to come for 2 days until Grandma reminded Mom. I cried reading his letter. The children were the only truly innocent victims in this situation, but I'd realized something important. My presence had enabled their parents' neglect. By always being there to catch them, I'd prevented Jake and Monica from experiencing the natural consequences of their parenting failures. As January progressed, the family tried various approaches. Flowers arrived at my apartment with unsigned cards. LinkedIn requests appeared from family friends trying to broker peace. Even a priest showed up at my door, sent by my mother to discuss the importance of forgiveness. I politely declined all overtures, maintaining my boundary that any reconciliation required genuine acknowledgement and restitution. The transformation in my own life was remarkable. Without the constant drain of family obligations, I threw myself into my career. My department head role expanded as I took on district-wide curriculum development. The podcast interview led to speaking engagements at education conferences. The potential book evolved into a contracted guide for educators on maintaining professional boundaries. More importantly, I began building genuine relationships. A fellow presenter from the conference, Dr. James Chun, became first a colleague, then a friend, then something more. He understood boundaries, respected my journey, and never once suggested I should reconcile because they're family. My circle grew to include other refugees from toxic family dynamics, creating a chosen family based on mutual respect rather than blood obligation. By late January, the family situation had stabilized into a new, fractured normal. Jake and Stephanie were in divorce proceedings. Monica was in therapy, though reportedly spending most sessions complaining about me. My parents maintained their victim narrative to anyone who'd listen, though their audience had shrunk considerably. The extended family had split into factions, those who supported accountability and those who clung to toxic traditions. But the most powerful change came in a quiet moment, sitting in my apartment on a Sunday morning. For the first time in my adult life, I had nowhere I had to be. No children to watch, no family drama to manage, no guilt-driven obligations to fulfill. I could simply exist, plan my own day, pursue my own interests. The freedom was intoxicating. My phone sat silent on the coffee table. No frantic texts about emergencies that weren't. No passive-aggressive messages about family disappointments. No manipulative pleas designed to trigger guilt. Just peaceful, blissful silence. I thought about Aunt Margaret, who'd escaped in 1987 and found 15 years of peace. I understood now why she'd never returned, even when the family eventually extended olive branches. Some bridges, once burned, revealed themselves to have been prisons all along. The charred remains weren't something to rebuild, but evidence of a successful escape. As winter turned toward spring, I occasionally wondered how they were managing. Did Jake ever learn what a metaphor was? Did Monica master basic cooking? Did my parents ever acknowledge their role in destroying their family? But these wonderings were brief, distant, like wondering about strangers in a news story. I'd given them what they'd asked for. A Christmas without Rachel. They'd gotten exactly what they'd planned, just not how they'd expected. And in trying to trap me, they'd ultimately freed me. Sometimes the greatest gift you can receive is the revelation of who people really are. It might hurt, but truth is always better than comfortable lies. The Morrison family would survive or fracture further without me. That was their choice, their consequence, their lesson to learn or ignore. I had my own life to build, my own dreams to pursue, my own boundaries to maintain. And for the first time in 34 years, I was exactly where I belonged, free. 6 months later, I stood before another conference audience, this time as the keynote speaker. The title of my presentation had evolved from my original academic paper to something more universal: the cost of compliance, breaking free from toxic family systems. As I looked out at the packed auditorium, I spotted familiar faces from my support network, colleagues who'd become friends, and surprisingly, a few estranged Morrison family members who'd quietly reached out over the months. The transformation in my life was complete but ongoing, like a garden that required constant tending. My apartment, once a mere crash pad between family obligations, had become a true home. Plants thrived on windowsills I used to rush past. Art from local artists adorned walls that had been bare. The second bedroom, which I'd always kept ready for unexpected babysitting duties, was now my office, complete with the standing desk I'd wanted for years but never felt I deserved. My relationship with James had deepened into something I'd never experienced before. A partnership based on mutual respect and genuine affection. He'd met my chosen family, understood my boundaries, and never once suggested that blood relations deserved automatic forgiveness. When his own family visited from Oregon, they welcomed me warmly, without a single question about why I wasn't spending holidays with my real family. The career growth I'd experienced was beyond my wildest dreams. The district had promoted me to assistant superintendent of curriculum development. My book, Teaching Boundaries, A Guide for Educators, would launch next month. Speaking engagements had taken me across the country, sharing my story with thousands who saw their own experiences reflected in mine. Each event brought messages from people finding courage to set their own boundaries. But the work wasn't just professional. I'd started therapy with Dr. Martinez, specializing in family trauma and enmeshment. Through our sessions, I'd uncovered patterns going back generations. My great-grandmother had been the family servant to her siblings. My grandmother had enabled my father's narcissism by always cushioning him from consequences. My mother had learned manipulation as survival. The cycle was ancient, but it would end with me. "You didn't break the family," Dr. Martinez had said during a breakthrough session. "You revealed what was already broken." Like turning on lights in a hoarded house, the mess was always there. You just stopped pretending it wasn't. The extended family dynamics had shifted dramatically. The Morrison Family Rebels group had evolved into a genuine support system. We met monthly for dinners, celebrating achievements and supporting struggles. Uncle Frank had walked me through investment strategies with the money I was finally saving. Cousin Patricia had become one of my closest friends. Aunt Carol sent weekly cards with terrible jokes that made me smile. Some unexpected reconciliations had occurred. Elisa still sent updates about Grandma, who at 94 had announced she was rewriting her will to reward courage over compliance. 3 of the 7 children had reached out directly through Elisa, sending artwork and letters. Lily, now 7 and learning to write, sent painstaking cursive notes about her days. Mason had started his own journal, sharing entries about standing up to bullies and choosing friends who treated him with respect. Even more surprising was Stephanie's transformation. The divorce from Jake had been brutal but liberating. She'd moved back to California, started therapy, and slowly learned to parent without relying on others. We'd had several video calls where she asked for advice, not as free labor, but as a respected educator. She'd even started paying other single moms fairly for babysitting exchanges, breaking the exploitation cycle. "I used to think you were just naturally good with kids," she'd admitted during our last call. "Now I realize you were good because you cared and worked at it. I'm learning to do the same. Actually parent my children instead of outsourcing it." The original Morrison crew remained largely unchanged. Monica's therapy had devolved into finding a therapist who would validate her victim narrative. She'd gone through 3 therapists before finding one who'd tell her what she wanted to hear. Her real estate business had recovered somewhat, though her reputation never fully did. She'd attempted contact twice, both times demanding apologies for ruining her life. Jake had remarried quickly to a younger colleague who seemed impressed by his banker lifestyle. According to the grapevine, he'd already started complaining about her lack of domestic skills. Some people never learned. His children visited him monthly, returning with stories about Dad's new girlfriend who doesn't understand kids, and meals that were always takeout. My parents had doubled down on their narrative. They'd moved to a smaller house, claiming financial hardship from the family crisis I'd caused. In reality, the trust fund investigation Great Aunt Lucille had initiated revealed years of misappropriation. They'd been forced to repay significant amounts. Their social circle had shrunk to a few enablers who enjoyed the drama more than the truth. The last direct contact had been a letter from my mother 3 months ago, filled with Bible verses about forgiveness and honoring parents. I'd responded with my own selected verses about truth, justice, and protecting the vulnerable. Her reply was a card saying I'd misunderstood scripture. Some conversations were circular by design, meant to exhaust rather than resolve. But today wasn't about them. As I began my keynote, sharing the story of that Christmas revelation, the audience leaned in with recognition. I spoke about the patterns of exploitation, the subtle grooming that begins in childhood, the way families can weaponize love and obligation. I shared the freedom that comes with breaking those chains, even when it costs you relationships you thought were essential. The phrase "blood is thicker than water" is often misquoted. I explained. The full saying is, the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. The bonds we choose, the families we create, the relationships we build on mutual respect, these are often stronger than mere genetic connection. During the Q&A, a young woman stood up, voice shaking. "My family expects me to give up my scholarship to help with their business. They say family comes first. How do I say no without losing them?" I thought carefully before responding. You might lose them temporarily, or even permanently. But consider what you're losing by saying yes. Your education, your dreams, your autonomy. Sometimes we have to choose between who we are and who our families want us to be. Choose yourself. The family members worth keeping will eventually understand. The ones who don't were never really family anyway. After the presentation, people lined up to share their stories, ask advice, or simply say thank you. Each interaction reinforced that my story wasn't unique. Millions of people struggled with similar dynamics, trapped by guilt and manipulation, disguised as love. As the conference wound down, I found myself in the hotel bar with my support network. James raised a toast to Rachel, who showed us that sometimes the best way to honor your family is to show them what healthy boundaries look like. Even if they never learn, Patricia added with a knowing smile. Especially if they never learn, Aunt Carol corrected. Some people prefer their dysfunction. Doesn't mean we have to participate. My phone buzzed with a message from Mason, sent through Elise's phone. "Aunt Rachel, I gave a presentation at school about people who inspire me. I picked you. My teacher said you sounded very brave. I think so too. Mom was mad, but I don't care. Love you." I smiled, saving the message to my folder of precious communications. The children were finding their own voices, making their own choices. Maybe the cycle would break in their generation more completely than mine. As I looked around the table at my chosen family, I felt the deep satisfaction of authentic connection. These people knew my worst moments, my struggles, my victories. They celebrated my boundaries rather than trying to erode them. They understood that love meant respect, not obligation. Later that night, in my hotel room, I video called Grandma through Elisa. At 94, she was sharp as ever, delighting in the family gossip she collected like treasures. "You know," she said, eyes twinkling, "I've been thinking about that Christmas dinner you missed. What did you eat instead?" I laughed, remembering. Hotel Continental breakfast, rubber eggs, and burnt coffee. And it was still better than being there? "Grandma, it was the best meal I'd ever had. Because I chose it. Because I was free." She nodded slowly. "Freedom tastes better than the fanciest feast with people who don't respect you. Remember that, dear one. And remember this. You didn't destroy the family. You revealed that there was nothing there worth saving. That took courage most people never find." As we said goodbye, I reflected on the journey. 18 months ago, I'd been drowning in obligations, suffocating under expectations, losing myself in service to people who saw me as convenience rather than kin. The decision to skip that Christmas had seemed impossibly hard at the time. Now it felt like the moment I'd finally started living. My life wasn't perfect. I still had moments of grief for the family I'd wished for rather than the one I'd had. Sometimes I'd see families genuinely enjoying each other's company and feel a pang of loss. But those moments were fleeting, quickly replaced by gratitude for the authentic relationships I'd built. Tomorrow, I'd return home to my peaceful apartment, my fulfilling career, my chosen family. I'd continue writing, speaking, teaching. I'd love and be loved by people who saw me as a whole person rather than a useful tool. I'd honor the children still trapped in that dysfunction by living as an example that escape was possible. But tonight, I had one more thing to do. I opened my laptop and began typing. An open letter to those still trapped. If you're reading this in secret, afraid someone will catch you questioning family loyalty, I see you. If you're exhausted from giving everything and receiving criticism in return, I understand. If you've been told that boundaries are selfishness and that family means accepting abuse with a smile, I'm here to tell you that's a lie. You deserve respect. You deserve reciprocity. You deserve relationships that energize rather than drain you. It's not your job to fix broken adults. It's not your responsibility to sacrifice your dreams for their convenience. It's not selfish to choose yourself. The path to freedom is scary. You might lose people you love. You might face criticism, manipulation, and guilt. But on the other side of that fear is something beautiful, a life that's truly yours. Start small. Say no to one request. Set one boundary. Document one instance of manipulation. Build your support network one trusted person at a time. Save money they don't know about. Make plans they're not part of. Remember, you don't need their permission to be free. And when you're ready, when you've built your foundation, when you know you can survive their rejection, take the leap. Choose yourself. Break the cycle. Your future self will thank you. With love and solidarity. Rachel. I posted the letter on my blog, watching as views and shares climbed within minutes. Each share represented someone recognizing their own story, finding hope in mine. This was why I'd chosen to go public with my experience. Not for revenge or attention, but for the thousands suffering in silence, believing they were alone. My phone lit up with a text from James. "Home tomorrow? I'm making that pasta you like." "Home tomorrow," I confirmed, smiling at how easy that word came now. Home. A place of peace, chosen company, and zero obligations I hadn't consciously accepted. As I prepared for bed, I thought one last time about that Christmas morning 18 months ago. Sitting alone with champagne while my family panicked. It had felt like an ending then, and in many ways it was. The end of exploitation. The end of manipulation. The end of sacrificing myself for people who didn't value me. But mostly, it had been a beginning. The beginning of boundaries. The beginning of self-respect. The beginning of authentic relationships. The beginning of a life I'd chosen rather than one assigned to me by genetics and guilt. The Morrison family still existed somewhere out there, possibly planning another scheme or wallowing in their chosen misery. But they existed without me, and that made all the difference. I'd given them what they'd asked for that Christmas, my absence. In trying to trap me, they'd set me free. And freedom, I'd learned, was the greatest gift you could give yourself. What boundaries do you need to set in your own life? What freedom awaits you on the other side of fear? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and remember, choosing yourself isn't selfish when the alternative is losing yourself entirely. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe for more content about breaking toxic patterns and building authentic relationships. Share this with someone who needs to hear that they deserve better, because sometimes a stranger's story can provide the courage we need to write our own. Thank you for being part of this journey, and remember, the family that truly loves you will respect your boundaries, not punish you for having them.